Thank you for being with us tonight. This meeting has been brought to you in part by
Let Grand Forks International Airport help you start your next vacation off on the right foot. Grand Forks International Airport offers flights to the sunny destinations of Orlando, Las Vegas, and Phoenix on Allegiant, and connections anywhere in the world through Minneapolis-St. Paul on Delta. Forget the hassle of long drives, parking nightmares, and stressful check-ins. The convenience of flying locally means less headaches and more time for you. Grand Forks International Airport. Your airport. Simply grand.
Know what's in this box? Well, in case your crystal ball is broken, here's a hint. Safe, reliable energy, for starters, but there's also a commitment to this community. See, at Xcel Energy, this is our hometown. So we're not just about making a living here, we're about living here. Oh, I wish I had wings. In our community, we're always delivering. Xcel Energy, responsible by nature.
Grand Forks. On Saturday, August 17th, WWE Live heats up with a massive main event.
We have entered a new era for the Universal title. The age of Rollins is here.
As Seth Rollins collides with Baron Corbin in a no-holds-barred match for the Universal Championship. Plus, see Ricochet take on The Miz and Cesaro in a triple threat match for the United States Championship. And don't miss Alexa Bliss. It's WWE Live on Saturday, August 17th. Tickets are available.
The City of Grand Forks are proud to hold the University of North Dakota City Council meeting Monday, August 19, 2019 is hereby called to order. Welcome and roll call.
Weigel. Here. Doppler. Here. Weber. Mott. Here. Marshall. Here. Sandy. And Veen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum, thank you. 1.2 is Mayor's announcements. I want to say congratulations to Sergeant Mark Ellingson. After serving the City of Grand Forks for 31 years, Sergeant Ellingson retired on August 17th. We wish him well in his retirement and thank him for his 31 years of service. There's a downtown street fair this weekend thanks to the DDA and all the partners. It should be a wonderful show this year. I've heard nothing but great things about the new location and the opportunities that it brings. I hope to see everyone there. Also, the Myra Museum History Rocks Car Show, August 25th, is at the Myra Museum. It starts at noon. Town and Country will start the music, and then Kay and the Classics will wrap it up. And it's usually a very pleasant afternoon in the park there. Back to school and welcome back students. This is the most exciting time of the year. Still wonderful weather and the buzz, not just the bees, but of new and returning students. And all our educators from pre-K and to UND are getting ready to hit the books. As the proud home of the University of North Dakota, we're especially excited about the new seasons, the new opportunities, and the reinvigorated energy of a brand new school year that it brings to the community. So college towns are always special places, but even more so this fall. So welcome back, UND. Good luck to all the students and educators, and please, every motorist out there, take caution as our children make their way to and from their new classes. I also have a proclamation. National Assisted Living Week, September 8th through the 14th, and a spark of creativity is their theme. Whereas the number of elderly and disabled Americans is dramatically increasing, assisted living is a long-term care service that fosters choice, independence, and autonomy in our elderly nationwide. The National Center for Assisted Living proudly created National Living Assisted Week. The theme of National Assisted Living Week 2019 is a spark of creativity, highlights the opportunities to bestow on our residents a multitude of events and activities that show them how much we care for and love them. So now, Michael Brown, the Mayor of Grand Forks, does proclaim the week of 8th to the 14th of September as National Assisted Living Week in Grand Forks. Urge all citizens and friends to visit loved ones who reside at these facilities and learn more about assisted living services and how they benefit our communities. With that, we go to item 2.
2.1, employee recognition.
So, I'm sure it's here. I think we'll do it next time. Okay? So, item 3, public hearings and second readings of ordinances. 3.1.
We have a public hearing and second reading of ordinance to dedicate right-of-way on plat of Auditor's Subdivision number 51.
We'll open the public hearing. We'll close the public hearing. Council comments on 3.1. Ms. Marshall moves approval, second. Ms. Stockler, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Item 4, action items. Who would like action items pulled for discussion? 416, Mr. Beal. 416, Mr. Beal. None others to be pulled? That leaves 4.1, 4.2. I was looking forward to Maureen reading that one. So item 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, 4.10, 4.11, 4.12, 4.13, 4.14, and 4.15. For a motion and a second. Mr. Weigel motions. Ms. Stockler seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thank you. 4.16.
Preliminary approval of replat of Lot 22, Block 1, Southern Estates, 12th Edition.
Mr. Beal.
Well, I'll ask Mr. Gaynor, could you walk us through this issue?
Sure. The area that we're looking at is between 40th Avenue South and 45th Avenue South on the east side of Columbia Road. If you recall, this area has been under discussion for quite some time in different platting scenarios, different issues. The map that you're seeing on the screen, the area in red, is the area that had brought most of the discussion about it. Originally, years ago, when this part of town was planned out through the PUD, there was a connecting street that would go through this development and then connect with 43rd Avenue. So that went through a number of different discussions, some neighborhood meetings, and after long debate, it was decided that the street would not go through, and instead there would be a buffer of 1 and or 2 family homes adjacent to South 25th to buffer from the other side. So at that point, it was left with either a dead-end dedicated street or a private access easement. It was decided at that point it would not be dedicated, and it would just revert to a private access easement to get the internal collection for the north of the 43rd and then to the south. So the planning department and other city departments have been under review of a phase 1 development to the south of where the red line is depicted. Most recently now, with the request that you have in front of you, is the developer is now requesting to, instead of the easement, private access and roadway easement, they're asking to have it dedicated. And if you look on the plat attached, this is the outline of the proposed dedicated cul-de-sac. So when it went through the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, after much debate, they approved the plat. However, they approved the plat without the dedicated right-of-way. So in essence, then it would revert back to just a private access easement. So the north side of the property, north of this roadway, right now, this is shown all to be 1 lot. And then on the south side, which is a part of this proposal, is to split the south half into 2 lots for future development, and then for more immediate development, it would be the lot just on the south side of the right-of-way. So again, the Planning and Zoning Commission forwarded that recommendation to you in terms of foregoing a dedicated street and replacing it with the private easement. The developer is in the audience if they'd wish to address the issue.
Yep.
Certainly.
So please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Austin Morris, Enclave Development. We have our engineers here too, so they can address the pertinent details related to their work. I just wanted to provide background on this because it's kind of confusing, and some history related to it, because I think it does shed light on our desire and our goal with the project, and then also the city's benefit from the project and the overall development, as well as 43rd. So we started working on this master planned mixed use community. It's about 17 acres in total. It includes a mixture of retail, office in the proposed plan. The combined total project value would be in excess of $30 million of this whole Columbia Road, or the properties abutting Columbia Road. When we started this about 1.5 years ago, and moved it forward from there and went through different master planning processes, I think 2 different neighborhood meetings. The goal was initially to have 43rd to go through to South 25th. That was the desire. It provides connectivity, circulation through that neighborhood, access from that neighborhood to our development, which will include a mixture of office buildings and then also a mixed-use retail restaurant. And we branded it SoCo, so South Columbia. So we created a cool brand, created a unique master plan that we think on the south side of the development where the office is going to go, that fits within the desired needs of the city of Grand Forks. We have 2 letter of intents to sign up 65% of that space from tenants, hoping we would have started a couple months ago, but hit some roadblocks with Magellan and some other items like this one. To the north, it's a mixture of service-based retail planned with restaurant, coffee, and service-based retail, meaning retail that people need regardless of the online shopping spree. So we understand the changing environment of retail, and we know that if you look at 32nd in Grand Forks, there is a need for office and retail. The vacancy rates in Grand Forks are some of the lowest in our region, whereas if you compare it to a Fargo, where I'm from, office vacancies in the southern part are like 13%. Retail vacancies are 10% plus. You guys have historically strong occupancy rates. I mean, 95% or better. So that's a good thing. There's a need for this type of project. The southern part of Grand Forks, south of 32nd, hasn't seen a tremendous amount of this type of development, except for on South Washington. So we see a need, our agents, commercial agents see a need, and this is going to be a really exciting development. We're happy to bring it to you and look forward to resolution on this. So going back, we had some issue with 43rd getting through. The neighborhood was against it strongly. They did not want the increased traffic through there as a result of this development. They did not want circulation through here. And they were comfortable with that there was already circulation on South 45th. And there's already circulation south of there at 2 different locations as well. They felt like that was enough. We worked with the neighbors and the city planning department and engineering to determine what do we do with South 43rd. And we ordered a traffic study, or I should say the city ordered the traffic study, which we paid for, and it showed warrants for a traffic light at 43rd based on future traffic counts, specifically related to the traffic that this development would generate, even without the circulation through the neighborhood. So the warrants were met for that traffic count at 43rd, and we're happy about that because without the traffic light, without 43rd going through, this project would have been dead. So we're happy that at least, 1 out of 2 options, you can't win everything, but 1 out of 2 we got, and we moved this development forward. So fast forward to today, we accommodated the neighborhood desire, worked with planning and engineering to make 43rd essentially a cul-de-sac, so a turnaround there. It would access our development, still a public city street, still maintained by the public methods. At the time we explored, do we install this privately as a way to get that public street in quicker? Because if we today ask the city of Grand Forks teams, can you guys get this done by this fall so we have access to our sites? The answer would be no. So we explored that. In working with Magellan, which has an easement across all of this property, how wide is that easement off of Columbia?
50 feet.
50 feet. So we had to accommodate that with our buildings. We discovered a few nuances which Brian can explain, but essentially we opted to say, let's make 43rd, it always was going to be a public street. Let's do it the normal way and have the city install it. We found an alternate access plan to build these 2 office buildings still this fall and accommodate them by an access from 45th temporarily, so that there'd be access to those 2 office buildings. And then when we do the 3rd one, we'd have access via 43rd and 45th. So our goal was to get the city street in next year, pay for it through special assessments, so the benefiting properties would pay for it. It's not, we're not benefiting from having it a city street other than you guys providing snow removal services and long-term maintenance on that. Again, special assessed to the development. What's more, the Magellan easement, in working through that with Magellan, we're having trouble getting even a drive lane with no parking on it approved by Magellan within the office space. And that's having a drive lane on their easement area abutting the pipeline. We're having trouble even getting that approved. So when we look at this 43rd, if that were a true private street with concrete instead of asphalt, which they require asphalt, we're not going to be able to get that approved by Magellan, but you guys can. So that's the challenges. Those are some of the challenges here. This was always a public street. This is always going to be a public street and paid for via special assessments, maintained by the city of Grand Forks. And I was surprised that planning thought differently, that since it's not going through the development. So that's one of the challenges I have. Had it gone through and access South 25th, it would have been, sounds good, let's special assess it, but because we stopped it early in order to accommodate, there's now a discussion of it. Why are we special assessing this? It's benefiting this commercial development, but not going through, it's not benefiting the public. Well, I would say it's benefiting the public by allowing this development to go through. It is still a city street, and I'd hoping we can resolve it, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Vian.
If I could, the question I'd have, you said Magellan requires the concrete, you said, street over the top of their...
Oh, it's my understanding, Brian, is it asphalt? You can come up here, you're smarter than me. They have specific requirements related to what you can and can't put over.
So, Brian Pattingale with Houston Engineering. We are responsible for most of the design work currently on this development. We have been working with city staff on the city street aspect of it, but finding back to the Magellan easement, yes, Magellan has a stipulation that for pavement in their easement, it is only allowed asphalt paving. Typically, your city streets are constructed with concrete. So as an aspect of that, we would have to do privately, we'd have to do it asphalt. It would generally be a lower design standard than the city streets. Cities are typically designed to a higher quality of pavement and infrastructure than a private development would be. Additionally, Magellan currently has an agreement with the city for an easement that allows a crossing of a street at that location. That was developed as part of the Columbia project when it was reconstructed. That exists today, and part of that stipulation is that it's a city-owned and constructed street. So, currently, that is what the existing easement agreement with the Magellan is for crossing their easement as an access point. As part of the plat and the original development of Columbia, access along Columbia was restricted to 2 points, 43rd and what I believe is Star, I think, is what the other access point would potentially be for city streets at one point. Obviously, that's been changed, so it was just at 43rd for City Street, and then just a single partial access at where Star would have crossed across the parcel to the north. At this point, we don't even know if we'll be able to get that agreed to by Magellan currently. Additionally, from a technical standpoint and an engineering aspect, 43rd is going to function like a city street. We need queue lengths and stacking lengths at that intersection with it being a signalized full intersection. It's the one full intersection that accesses Columbia from the middle of the parcel. In that respect.
Well, Mr. Gangler, I guess I was unaware of restrictions for that type of an access from the pipeline company. Is that written somewhere?
I guess I don't know that exact answer offhand. We do know just generally Magellan carries with it, restrictions and based on the depth of the pipe and then the surface above. So I can't answer that directly right now in terms of what those, but Mr. Grasser can.
Welcome, Mr. Grasser.
Thank you. I'm not positive I can answer that definitively, but we have definitely seen a change in the protocols by Magellan over the years, continuing getting tighter and tighter. They're concerned about concrete. When we ask them about it, a lot of times it has to do with the concern of if there's a break or something that they have to access. They're concerned about any cutting that may go on with concrete or rebar that would be in the concrete could potentially create a spark. And so they've taken a stance that they're pretty much not in favor of concrete within at least portions of their easement. I'm not sure that the city is going to have any better luck relative to the discussion of concrete versus asphalt. We were just talking the other day, there may be some asphalt sidewalks that go in there again because when the turn lanes go in, these sidewalks will shift into the Magellan easement. So I think we face some of the same challenges. I appreciate your confidences, but I'm not sure that we'll be able to change that dynamic. That really doesn't change if it should be public or private. It's just I don't want to have an expectation that the city is going to be able to necessarily by default build the full-blown concrete. We face some of the same challenges, so.
Well, our city standard is concrete, but we do have asphalt in the way.
Correct, and if.
So we could do either or if it was as a part of this agreement with Magellan, I guess.
We'll have to do whatever we have to do to get a permit.
We can make that work.
Yep.
So then this little cul-de-sac really only serves two properties, the one to the north and the one to the south, right?
So as the master plan shows, which right now we're working on just the parcel to the south of the master, with the master plan going all the way to the north. What is that abutting? What's this? Where Star goes? What's this street?
Up north, that's 40th.
40th. So the master plan continues through the entire development. So they technically would have access to all of the north property from 43rd. And then the other access point is, I don't know,
There's a
600 feet.
Yeah, there's a southerly access platted off of 45th on the south side, and then the access that we're talking about into where 43rd Avenue would be.
Yep. And then there's another access plan for our development to the north.
Right there, you got two accesses there, one on the cul-de-sac and one in the middle. Is that right?
Yep, two accesses off of 43rd.
Yeah, there's two on this site plan. There's one going north, one going south, kind of mid street, and then also another that planned as a connection or not.
Yep.
Yep. And then ultimately additional access from 45th going.
Mr. Gangler, is the question kind of here, when does should this street be private and when should it be public? I mean, at what point do you cross that?
Right, no, that.
When it should be private and public, because they'll both serve the same purpose when you're all said and done.
Right. We have some other examples of where we'll have a signalized intersection coming off of like a parking lot off of Demers, which is a pretty unique situation in and of itself. This one, staff looked at it in terms of our support for it, and some of the points that Mr. Morris brought up. All the properties that take access will be assessed for the project, just like any other street. Snow removal, street maintenance, and those types of things, that's handled through your normal, taxation process, just like we all pay for the snow removal in front of our own streets. And in this case, staff kind of asked ourselves that same question: what are the pros and cons? What are the negatives? And in this case, because it is going to be specially assessed, they're paying for it. With the idea that we have the signalized intersection, I think provides some, at least, comfort or clear direction that the easterly street that four-way signal connects to is a public street, publicly maintained. So those were some of the key points that staff looked at when this request first came in. And again, at our Planning and Zoning Commission, they chose to forego approving the right-of-way and only going with an easement rather than the dedicated right-of-way.
Your recommendation at that time was the public right-of-way.
Correct.
Mr. Peeler.
Mayor Brown, members of City Council, I think to that question, it's going to look like a city street, it's going to function like a city street, and we're going to get called like it's a city street. especially because it's at a signalized intersection. So in my past history of being here, over 20 years, generally people think even private streets are public streets. They're not as well maintained. And eventually it's happened over and over again. Private streets become public streets, and then we deal with what is at that point in time. So I think if it's going to function like a public street. The fire department's going to have to access this street. It's going to have to be well maintained in the winter. It's going to have to be well maintained at that intersection so that people don't slide right through the intersection at Columbia Road. Those are the things the street department can do in public works. So to avoid all the finger pointing, and eventually, to be frank, we get involved in everything, even if it's a private street, because for the greater good of this city, we get involved even when we don't really own it. And eventually, we end up taking ownership 20 years later anyway. So I think to avoid some of the escapades that generally happen with these things, and putting operators in inconvenient locations late at night and dealing with citizens who don't understand why it's public or private. I think if the street's going to go in there, it's going to look like that. The fire department's going to have to access. I would make sure it's public, and our street department would do an excellent job of maintaining it. And let's get it right from the start, I'd say, if you're going to put a street in.
Thank you.
So the question, the motion then that would have to be made to keep it a public street, what would that motion look like?
Well, the motion would be to, maybe not exact word for word, but, overturning the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval. I guess I would look to Mr. Swanson for maybe a more appropriate language to, if that's going to be your wishes to.
If we had approved this, we would have denied the street, public street.
If you would approve the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation.
Yeah, if we approved their recommendation, which is the item that's before us right now. So we have to vote down that recommendation and vote another. I guess I'm not quite sure what that would look like.
Mr. Swanson.
Mayor Brown, members of the council, looking at the committee recommended action that was approved by Planning and Zoning, it was in two parts. It was preliminary approval upon two conditions: removal of proposed public street, and two, the lot line run through the center of the removed public right-of-way. If the council were inclined to adopt an action different than that, I'm assuming the council would be giving preliminary approval to the proposal, including the proposed street as a public street. But I don't know what it does with respect to the lot lines. I'm just not in a position that I can address that.
I think the intent of the lot line was obviously to provide the split, because if that public right-of-way, which would have otherwise split these properties, in absence of that, they chose then to forego the right-of-way and then continue the lot line, because there is on the map a very small easterly portion of where the cul-de-sac would have ended, and then another 20 feet or so to the lot line. So their recommendation was to, again, do away with the right-of-way and then extend that lot line to make a clear distinction between Lot 2 to the south and Lot 1 to the north. I don't know if Mr. Swanson would have any suggestions in terms of, because essentially if it were to be approved as submitted, and that would have been based on staff's original recommendation for approval.
Mr. Swanson. Advice?
Kept going? Well, are you suggesting that staff's preliminary recommendation should be what council should be adopting with regard to the lot lines?
I think if the council's intent is to approve the plat with the dedicated right-of-way, that was staff's original proposal or recommendation.
With the proposed dedicated right-of-way?
Correct.
No dedication is it yet, correct?
Right. As submitted, the plat showed the dedicated right-of-way, which is what staff was recommending.
Well, then I think the motion would be to give preliminary approval of the plan as submitted by the developer.
Mr. Vian?
I guess looking at the recommendations, I would make that motion based on what I heard today. This is going to come back again to us, is it not? So this just keeps it moving with the cul-de-sac in play and the developer can continue with that in mind. Like I said, we got a second reading of an ordinance that would come forward.
Correct. This will come back through for a second
I
reading.
think we have to acknowledge is that the advantages to a private street is we don't have to maintain it. And the developer has to do that. But what I've heard and I've seen from engineering before, these private ones come back public and then we have to go through a whole process of trying to convert that back to a public, and it's better to just do it up front and be done with it. So that's why I'm making this motion.
Mr. Weber seconds. Further discussion?
If I may, I hate to drag this out any further. It's a complicated issue. Why is it that P&Z recommended against the staff recommendation?
Some of their thoughts were sort of some of the comments that have been brought up in terms of why would the city be responsible for the roadway? Why would the city, agree to do snow removal? But those exact opposite arguments are what are being presented, that the city does want to have control over it. It is being special assessed then to the adjoining property owners. So that was, their rationale versus sort of what we're talking about now, going the opposite direction.
I'm hesitant to go against committee recommendations usually, but what I'm hearing is that they were trying to look out for the city's best interest from their perspective, and now it's our job to have final say on this, and please.
Well, just usually when I stand up, when someone's, sometimes it's a bad idea, but I just thought I'd clarify that I didn't know about the meeting, so I didn't attend, and I think it would have gone differently had I explained, and had the nuances been explained, but I wasn't there to visit with people, so I think Ryan was there, right? And Ryan always does a nice job, but I don't know if the history of this would have helped at all like it was shared today, so.
Mr. Grasser.
Hi, sorry, again, dragging it out. Maybe just some perspective on this. Usually what will happen in the discussions about a public versus private is the developer will want to narrow right-of-ways, they'll want to bring building setbacks closer, they'll want to, maybe leave some things out. And I think what's different about this is, as Mr. Phelan articulated, is they're building it basically to look like a city street. They're dedicating the proper right-of-way, the proper cul-de-sac. My understanding is building setbacks, will conform to normal. So, the question is maybe why didn't anybody object, like engineering, because that would normally be the process, like, well, we're not going to take that because the right-of-way is only 40 feet wide, right? And but this one, there were none of those objections that came to light because they are essentially following city standards.
Okay, and if I could, one last bit of clarification. There was concern because there's a pipeline under there that it not be built of concrete, and as the city's okay to make this of asphalt? Or?
Well, we prefer concrete, but again, we have, they have an existing easement and property rights to that, and we have to just conform to getting a permit. It's kind of like a railroad, we have to deal with the railroad, and we have to meet their conditions when they're in control of that right-of-way. Their easements preceded ours, and so, we need to meet the terms of their permit. It's, everything I've heard kind of sounds like we're going to end up with some asphalt in there.
Yes.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Grasser. Ms. Vermont?
So if we do the city dedicated right-of-way, then can the city work with the pipeline to try to figure that out, and whatever needs to happen will go forward that way? Okay.
Mr. Grasser nods affirmative. Okay, any further council comments? If not, we have a motion and a second before us. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any introduction to ordinance 416? Need someone to sponsor that, Mr. Weigel. Thank you. Item 5, informational items, 5.1.
A quarterly staffing report for the second quarter of 2019.
5.2.
And the statement of changes in cash balance as of March 31st.
5.3.
And your investment portfolio summary as of July 31st.
Item 6, citizen request. Does anyone wish to address the council? Hearing none. 7, approval of minutes and bills. 7.1.
Your vendor list has presented.
Need a motion and a second to pay the bills. Mr. Weber motions, Ms. Stocker seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries. The bills are paid. We have no 7.2 tonight. Item 8, city administrator comments.
Mayor Brown, members of City Council, just one announcement. Mayor Brown appointed Tangi Bovet as our new HR director. about a week or so ago, so I'm just going to read a few bullets about Tangi so we can all get to know her. Tangi was hired as an HR generalist on March 8th of 2012. She was promoted to HR generalist senior on January 1st of 2013. And then on June 15th, 2015, she was promoted to compensation and benefits specialist. And she's got 17 years of HR field experience. And previously, she was with the Polk County as HR director and special projects coordinator. I want to thank Councilmember Marshall, who was part of an interview team as part of that, so thank you for that. And more importantly than the biography, this is what some of her colleagues say about Tangi. She's one of the best people to run ideas by because she asks the right questions. She is relatable and approachable. She is direct and factual. She is consistent, and she has a sense of humor. And finally, she'll be a great HR director. So with that, Mayor, thanks for appointing her. And we welcome Tangi as our new colleague, as our HR director. So that's all.
Show of appreciation. You don't ask for a speech unless you have the urge. You're good. Okay. So item 9, Mayor and Council member comments. Councilman Weigel.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Doppler and I will be hosting a combined Ward 1 and 2 meeting next Monday at 7 p.m. at Station 2. And we will hope to address the noisy party ordinance change and any other concerns that might come up at that point.
Thank you. Councilman Doppler? No. Councilman Weber? Councilman Mock? Councilman Marshall?
Just a hearty congratulations to Tangi. We're very excited about you taking this position.
Yes. Council Member Vian.
And I just want to say the same thing. I know we did a lot of work when we had issues at the Alaris Commission and things in between. She did a great job, so a great selection.
Thank you. Again, congratulations to Sergeant Mark Ellingson on his retirement after 31 years with the city. Again, there's a downtown street fair this weekend, so thanks to DDA and all the partners. Myra Museum History Rocks Car Show, August 25th at Myra Museum. Back to school. Please be aware there's going to be students going to and from school, so be careful and welcome back UND and all the students and educators. Also, next week, or August 8th through 14th, is National Assisted Living Week. With that, we get a motion to adjourn. Mr. Vian motions, Ms. Marshall quickly seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us tonight. This meeting has been brought to you in part by
Let Grand Forks International Airport help you start your next vacation off on the right foot. Grand Forks International Airport offers flights to the sunny destinations of Orlando, Las Vegas, and Phoenix on Allegiant, and connections anywhere in the world through Minneapolis-St. Paul on Delta. Forget the hassle of long drives, parking nightmares, and stressful check-ins. The convenience of flying locally means less headaches and more time for you. Grand Forks International Airport, your airport, simply grand.
Know what's in this box? Well, in case your crystal ball is broken, here's a hint. Safe, reliable energy, for starters, but there's also a commitment to this community. See, at Xcel Energy, this is our hometown. So we're not just about making a living here, we're about living here. Oh, I wish I had wings.
In our community, we're always delivering. Xcel Energy, responsible by nature.
Grand Forks. On Saturday, August 17th, WWE Live heats up with a massive main event.
We have entered a new era for for the Universal title. The age of Rollins is here.
As Seth Rollins collides with Baron Corbin in a no-holds-barred match for the Universal Championship. Plus, see Ricochet take on The Miz and Cesaro in a triple threat match for the United States Championship. And don't miss Alexa Bliss. It's WWE Live on Saturday, August 17th. Tickets are available.